Welcome to the Townsend Institute Podcast Series, Tips, a show produced by the Townsend Institute at Concordia University, Irvine. This podcast provides tips into leadership, coaching, and counseling topics aimed at helping listeners grow in both their personal and professional lives. I'm Dr. John Townsend, psychologist, organizational consultant, and author of over 30 books, including the New York Times best-selling Boundaries series. I'm also the founder of the Townsend Institute, and I'm excited to introduce your podcast hosts, Townsend Institute Program Directors Dr. Ashley Andrew and Dr. Gilbert Fugit.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first episode of the Townsend Institute Podcast Series. My name is Dr. Ashley Andrew, and I'm joined here today by...
Hi, I'm Dr. Gilbert Fugit. I'm very excited to be part of the Townsend Institute Podcast Series.
All right. Well, today there's no other way to get the Townsend Institute Podcast Series launched than with an interview with our founder and leader, Dr. John Townsend himself. Welcome, John. Thank you for being here today.
Hi, guys. Glad to be here.
Well, we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. The focus here on this podcast is to bring our listeners the latest in counseling, coaching, and leadership. And we do that, obviously, through our Townsend Institute here at Concordia University, Irvine. We would love for you to share with us, for those who aren't familiar, a little bit about what the Townsend Institute is and how it's a product of your years of research and experience, Dr. Townsend.
Yeah, it's actually been kind of the culmination of a process that happened years ago. I've been trained as a psychologist for many years and have worked with leadership and corporation work, churches, families, this sort of thing. And the whole idea has been, how do people grow? How do organizations grow? How do families grow? How do marriages grow? How do executives grow? And so if anybody's read any of my books, this all has to do with coming from one level of achievement or competency or maturity to another one. Well, a few years ago, it was time to do this in a way that not only helped people grow, but helped people who were trained to go help people grow. Kind of a cascade, as you would call it, where you're training the trainers. And the only place to do that I could figure out was going to be an educational institute, where you get formal training, you get all the skills, you get the competencies, you get the model, which is a combination of scientific and anecdotal and biblical model of all this, and put it together with highly trained people like yourselves who can take that and then create kind of an army, really, of counselors and coaches and leaders who understand what growth is about. And guess what? Make this world a better place. There's an idea. So that's where it all came from.
I love it, John. Creating a better place. And, one of the pillars of the Townsend Institute is the focus on the model, which students learn, in their first class. They learn at the kickoff conference and utilize it throughout their programs. Can you give our listeners a brief overview of the Townsend model?
Sure. The model has to do with the fact that any kind of growth has to do with your character, which is your insides. I mean, the way you're built inside. When we think of character, we think, oh, yeah, somebody that doesn't cheat on their taxes and they're nice to their spouse, and that's important. But there are these four elements of character that would really drive home, because that's what we have found is kind of our unique propositional thing, and it helps people. And the first of those four capacities, we call them, are the capacity to make attachments, to make great relationships, to be open with people, to be vulnerable, to be able to tune into people. The second one is separation. Now, if you've read any of my Boundaries books, it has to do with setting your limits, saying no, defining yourself, confronting when you need to, having your voice, because every leader, every coach, every counselor needs to have their voice, as well as to be able to make attachments. The third one is what we call integration. Integration has to do with the fact that we're not perfect, and the world's not perfect. And so some people can't handle that. They're very perfectionistic. They're hard on themselves. They kind of beat themselves up when they fail. But integration means we embrace the negatives about ourselves and other people in the world, and we deal with them in effective ways. So we're not freaked out by imperfection. And then the fourth one is adulthood. And adulthood has to do with coming at life in equal territory, that I'm as good as anybody else, and I'm a nice person, and I'm not anybody's little kid, and I don't want to micromanage people. I want to be an even mutual person, and then finding out what your mission and your purpose and why you're on the planet are and how to get the skills. And so the letters there: attachment, separation, integration, and adulthood. Our little acronym is Asia, which is a great continent. And so everything we do, whether it's how to lead a team meeting or how to help executives grow or how to help somebody with depression, is going to have to do with what are those 4 character capacities, those building blocks. Is there a deficit there? Are there skills they need there? And it changes everything. That's why we call it the growth model, because it's a consistent way to look at growth.
That's great. That's a great explanation. And what a nice summation of those 4 character capacities that, as you said, we focus on really from the get-go of our students' programs, right? From the first class that they take all the way through. And then hopefully it's a growth model they continue with, right? Even after graduation.
Absolutely. And the cool part about that is it's the underlying thing. See, some people in some schools and some theorists say, well, the problem is the problem. Like, your depression is the problem. No, depression is something that maybe there's an attachment issue, or maybe somebody doesn't have their voice, or a corporate company with a cultural issue. They'll say, well, you got to get people happier, so start having more parties. Maybe the corporation culture doesn't have attachment, or maybe the people don't feel safe to have a voice, and those sorts of things. So we don't just deal at the Institute with the symptoms, like where's the pain, we're not making money, or we're depressed. We deal with what's really causing it. We go into the why, and the why resides in those 4 areas. And that's why I think that our graduates, now that we've got a lot of studies going on, our alumni are getting great jobs and great careers because they go deeper to the real core issues.
There you go. And that's why we refer to it as the secret sauce, right? Our Townsend model, the secret sauce.
Yeah. And I was thinking too, as we thought about this even impacts how we do even meetings here at the Townsend Institute, right? I mean, sometimes you could say, hey, I'm kind of working on my integration today, and so help me think through this, or adulthood and things. So yeah, I love it.
Or sometimes we'll start a meeting and saying, okay, we'll take 2 minutes. How are you doing? Instead of let's get to it. And somebody say, well, my kid's struggling and just want to tell you that be thinking about me or praying for me. So we try to make it very, very relational because the model is relational.
That's great. Thanks, John. Let's go ahead and move on. In your current research and experience, what are you seeing as one of the greatest challenges facing today's leaders, coaches, and counselors?
Actually, probably the number one thing I see when I work with leaders is that they tend, when they're under stress, and these are stressful times, obviously, that they tend to hunker down and go inside and isolate and depend on their strengths and their gifts, of which they have a lot. Mm-hmm. Sort of like, I don't want to bug anybody with my problems. I don't want to tell anybody how stressed I am. I just want to work harder. I'll get to bed. I'll get to bed later. I'll get to the office earlier. And they sort of go into a self-sufficient mode. And I have to work with a lot of them. These are people that run billion-dollar corporations and say, you're not built that way. You need to reach out. And the phrase I use is you need to need. Mm. And leaders kind of don't like that because it feels weak. And I'll just say, you're supposed to be burdening other people. And there's a lot of people that have been burdening you, and they would feel great if you burden them. Now, I'm not talking about your employees or your customers, but I'm talking about kind of your life team of people that care about you. And it's hard for them to do because they feel selfish and high need. But then when they finally go, I just told somebody it wasn't so great and I'm struggling and I'm kind of insecure and I'm beating myself up, they came away and they say, the lunch was great because the person said, I'm on your team and I get it. So leaders don't like to do this, but it is the cure for so much stress they're under, is don't reach inwards. What does inwards mean? Reach outwards for the right kinds of relationships. That's where the strengthening and the nutrients of life come from.
I like that, John. The nutrients of life. And as we're thinking about this, I know you're always doing research. You're always on the leading edge here. Could you give our listeners a little maybe peek into what you're working on now?
I'm currently actually working on my first textbook, and that is weird. I mean, I've written 30 some books, and the average marketplace book, if you go to an airport, the airport stand, the average airport book is written at the 8th grade level. And talking to, you guys and the other faculty and leadership, and they said, we don't need more 8th grade books for you because we're a grad school. We need a 17th grade book. It's like, that's kind of a jump, where I really go into the technical aspects of what a Christian counseling program was about. What is Christian counseling and Christian therapy? Where I go into the research aspects and the theoretical aspects and the biblical aspects. And I've never done anything like this before. But I love it because I love that, as you said, Gilbert, I love that part. But that book is something I'm currently working on, so that all around the world, Christian counselors can get a feel for what and know what's behind the. It's kind of like I'm going to open up the hood of the car and show you where the engine is, so you can really do a great job. And then all of our students, of course, will be trained by this, so it's kind of fun.
That's really exciting. We can't wait to hear where that comes and how it continues to inform what we do here at the Townsend Institute. Because so much of your research and experience has obviously informed all the different areas of our institute. You talked about mental health counseling. We, of course, have our organizational leadership side, as well as executive coaching. So you talked a little bit about your personal work with the textbook. What do you hope to see as the future of the Townsend Institute here at Concordia?
I would call it more of the same. I love what we're doing. I love our faculty and our staff, and I love our students. We are such a family, and I love interacting with them and hanging out and going to Zoom meetings, and then there are also face-to-face things we do. And so I think that our secret sauce is helping them not only to help other people, but to help each other with their own heads and their own lives. So more of the same. We are now looking at being able to find other majors that people are asking for and stuff. But the cool thing is that we've been doing this for several years now. We kind of know what we're doing because the proof's in the pudding. And the fact that our graduates are getting, career-wise jobs. I mean, they may be their 2.0, their 3.0, their 4.0, but they're coming back saying, I'm at the top of my class, or I'm at the top of my cohort, or I'm at the top of my business because I've learned these models. I'm just saying more of the same. And that's why we're so aggressively recruiting talent, like top talent, like you guys and other people, to help train and be with and mentor and develop people who want that opportunity. Education is not an end in itself. It's not like being an information junkie and just information for no reason but information. I'm kind of that way anyway. But it has more to do with opportunity. It's taking the ceiling off of your career, wherever you are now, and going, boom, come through. I can do something better, maybe in the same culture, or maybe in the same industry, or maybe something totally different. And we love to see the transformations and the breakthroughs and the great, great opportunities, because education brings opportunity to be a you that you've never had before.
Absolutely. Yeah, John. And I think about how our institute's expanded. We're global now. I mean, we have people from all over the world. I had a student from Zambia the other day. It was 4:30 in the morning, and she was in class, at 6:00 out here. And so, yeah, it's amazing how
it doesn't speak to the universality of a model that affects all humans. I mean, we're very, very culture aware and very, very culture inclusive, but humans are built a certain way and designed by God a certain way. And so Zambia or, Orange County, California, it works.
Absolutely. Yeah. So now, at the end, as we kind of come to a close here at each podcast, we want to talk about a takeaway or a tip here. If you could sum up what you shared with us today, what's one tip that you'd want our listeners to take away from it?
Great question, Gilbert. Here's the tip. Pay attention to your passion. Now, I define passion is that activity which causes you to lose time. It causes you to lose time. Something that maybe takes you 3 hours, but it feels like 15 minutes. The opposite of passion is when it's 15 minutes, feels like 3 hours. And God built this passion into you, whatever it is. I mean, for some of y'all, it'd be like you were the one that was always picked to lead the soccer team, or to lead the debate team, or lead the youth services team. And that would be leadership passion. Some of you just love to develop people and see the best of them and encourage them and help them to be better people. That's the coaching passion. Some of you love to be around brokenness when people say, my life's struggling and I don't have friends or whatever, and they come around you, they gravitate towards you. That's the counseling passion. But you've had it because God built it into you many, many, many years ago. But life goes on, and you get married, and you have relationships, and you move around, and you kind of lose the passion. You just start turn the crank, and life is not meant to be that way. My tip would be selfish about, in a good way, and focus on your passion, that thing inside you that you've always done well and loved. And for us here at the Institute, we see ourselves as the garden for the passion. We're the soil. We're the nutrients. We bring all those things to bear. Come to us if you think it's time for the opportunity, and we'll help that passion become a thing called a career. And I don't think there's any better life.
That was wonderful. Well, Dr. Townsend, we can't thank you enough. There's no one else we wanted to interview other than you for the first episode of our Townsend Institute podcast series. It's so nice being able to hear from you, our founder, our namesake, and one of our leaders who is still so very involved in all that we do here at the Townsend Institute. We certainly hope that our listeners are going to continue to tune in and subscribe as we have new guests joining us each episode, some coming from our awesome internal staff of faculty and staff in their different areas of expertise, as well as hoping to hear from some of our students down the road as well, current students and former students, on how the Townsend Institute has helped transform their life and help them live out their passion. So we can't thank you enough, Dr. Townsend, for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. Special thanks to Gadesa Labawa, CUI alumni, for the Tips podcast music. If you enjoyed the Townsend Institute podcast series, head to our website, cui.edu/Townsend, to find out more about the certificates or bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degrees offered through Concordia University, Irvine. With programs in organizational psychology, mental health counseling, executive coaching consulting, and organizational leadership, we have a variety of faith-based programs dedicated to helping you fulfill your academic and professional goals, all while further developing your competence and character. Again, that's cui.edu/Townsend.